Hey everyone, Willie Clark here. Welcome to episode 24 of the Voices of Valyria podcast. This week we're going to be talking about Book of the Stranger, episode 4 of season 6 of Game of Thrones. As always, my co-host, the unburnt, the unbroken, the unflappable, unflammable. What else are you, Tim? Throw out some more adjectives.
The ungassy, the slightly hungry, a little bit inebriated, and definitely caffeine dependent.
Perfect. There we go. Timothy Minahan, everybody.
How you doing?
How's it going, Tim?
I'm doing well. I do actually have to eat a little bit of humble pie this week, Willie. A little bit of.
How does it taste?
It tastes really bad. It tastes salty and kind of a little bit rocky. And I'm going to have to give out a shout out to a listener of ours, Jenny. Jenny watched our episode and contacted me and said that I was wrong about a particular feature of last week's podcast where I said that Jon Snow has access to the largest army in Westeros because I said that he had the wildlings on his side and that there were 50,000 wildlings and then 25,000 wildlings and that the Boltons have no numbers equal to that size. Well, Jenny did the math and told me that, it would be significantly smaller because there was the Battle of the Wall, then Hardhome, and then that they probably would have used most of their fighting men at Hardhome to protect the women and children and the sick and the elderly, and that there would be a significantly smaller number and that the Boltons would definitely outnumber the Wildlings, which I did not believe until this episode where Tormund admits that they only have 2,000 fighting men. So, I'm wrong, Internet. Are you happy?
You were wrong. Hey, Tim, it happens to the best of us. And especially, it's actually funny. I just finished. I don't want to talk about it too much, but I just finished my first Game of Thrones article for a professional publication. For those of you who don't know, who don't follow this very closely, I do a lot of freelancing work for pretty much everyone. I almost work for pretty much. If you go to a site during the day, I probably have.
If you like porn, Playboy.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I do a lot for. Yeah, and actually, that's funny. The sites you go to by day and by night, I'm involved in. But mostly video games, music stuff. But I just finished my first Game of Thrones article. I wrote them all for the podcast and for the website for the past few years. And then this year decided I really wanted to make money doing those. But yeah, so it's interesting because I realized that writing about Game of Thrones is tricky. Because there's just so much a writer has to know about and keep straight. And it's I mean, I'm not complaining by any means, but I'm just saying that, like, it's very easy, and it's interesting to me when I see now, I mean, Game of Thrones, I'm going to guess, is probably the most covered TV show ever on the internet at the moment. And so it's funny to me that now there's all of these people who are quickly trying to become experts on a subject that's very, very complicated. So sites are specifically trying to find someone, they need people who already know Game of Thrones to write about Game of Thrones.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it's become such a thing. And unlike other things like Star Wars or stuff like that, Star Wars, as deep as the EU and all that stuff gets, it's still not a universe the size and depth and, finesse of something like Game of Thrones. I mean, the only thing that eclipses it, is Tolkien's, Legendarium.
Oh, the Silmarillion. What a read.
Hey, Tim, I'm reading it. Okay, side note, everyone, and then I promise we'll talk about Game of Thrones. I'm reading the Silmarillion for the first time right now. Technically, I've tried reading it before, but I've never made it through. And it's been probably since high school, so it's probably been like 8 or 10 years since I've tried reading it. It is phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
It is fucking nominal. Like, I mean, it's not perfect, but I reread Lord of the Rings last year, and I struggled with it a bit. It actually took me a while to get through it. It was just vastly different than I remembered it being, but I knew after that I wanted to finally get and read the Silmarillion, and the Silmarillion might actually be better than Lord of the Rings.
It's
Like,
definitely a beautiful book because
that's a great way to put it.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a beautiful book. It is the backbone of everything that comes off of Tolkien's works, which is why when you read it after you've read like The Hobbit or the Lord of the Rings trilogy, you have such a great appreciation for it.
Yeah.
That is what everything has been birthed from.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's a great way to put it. And yeah, I mean, I love the you know, his creation story. Yeah, is beautiful. It's like the universe being born out of music. Like how perfect is that?
Is absolutely a stunning way to tell it. I mean, he has great ways to describe things, and
Mm-hmm.
it is just phenomenal. Which does bring up an interesting thought in my head because you would make a perfect test subject for my next show that I'm doing on my YouTube channel, which is the Lore Down, where we take two well-read individuals of certain lores and franchises and have them compete for prizes.
I'd be down. I'm kind of versed in Lord of the Rings. I always tell people I am, but I don't think I'm actually as versed as most people are. I used to read the trilogy a lot, um, but yeah, this is the first time. This is the first time I've read the trilogy. Um, Again, I think I read. I kind of read one of them in college, but probably since high school. So my memory was a little foggy, but I'm definitely intrigued. So I'll probably play. I don't care if I lose. It's just fun. I like trivia.
It's a fun game. It's going to be a that will be a later point that I announce it on the channel. But we have a number of shows that are coming up. But Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Our viewers are sitting there going, "Get to the fucking point, Willie and Tim. Get to the point. We know you. We know other things exist, but
We're
don't
just
waste
stroking our huge nerd egos.
Don't waste our time with 6 whole minutes of Lord of the Rings discussion. We came here for the boobies and the burning.
I mean, elves have
Ooh,
boobies too.
That is true. Though they're not quite fireproof.
No, they're not. Nor are they, you know. Oh well, that's besides the point. Fireproof boobies. Should we discuss those fireproof boobies first?
Yeah, let's start with Danny. And I'm actually.
Are you okay? I'm gonna ask you a question. Are you happy or sad where the Danny story has gone?
Sad.
Okay, because I have polled a few people, and a lot of people have been sad, and there's been quite a few people who have been super excited about it.
Yeah, it's very divisive actually. I mean, I haven't. I try not to read reviews of Thrones and stuff before I podcast because I really like to just give listeners as much of my own opinion and thought process and processing an episode as possible. I mean that's not just for Thrones. That's my process for most things I'm reviewing, if not all of them. But I've seen some of the reaction on the internet this week, and it seems that people really liked this episode, and I really didn't. And here is actually my problem with the Danny plot. We've seen it before. This is the same. This is Danny's become a one-trick Dothraki pony. Like, we've seen her light an entire building on fire and come out of it unburned. Like, this isn't new. Like, okay, she killed a whole bunch of people, which I do think there's a bit of suspension of disbelief that they couldn't leave that room or attack her in the process. I'm beginning to wonder if she laid oil on the floor, if that's what she had Jorah and and fuck, what's his name?
Dario.
Case in point. Game of Thrones is hard to keep track of everything. And did she have them lay oil on the floor? Is that what she said she needed them to help
It was
with?
actually all of Dario's hair product on the floor.
Well, I mean, but right, like isn't there a certain level of suspension of disbelief there that she just set this entire thing on fire and it burnt down and killed people without anything? Like, I understand that she's fireproof. What I don't understand is why the men didn't just rush at her or break through one of the walls. Like, I don't know.
I think one would argue that it was because they were in awe of her power, but it wasn't a power. It's just she's flame-proof and can knock over lanterns and.
Exactly. Like, it's not like she's the fucking Human Torch or whatever.
Now, if she could breathe fire herself, that would be a completely different story. I'd run away.
exactly, but that's not what happened. She spilled some
But
stuff.
at the very first urn
It's
that she pushes over like one or two at the very beginning, like, all right, so the room's on fire. There's still plenty of not fiery room that you could get her at.
yeah, exactly. Like this isn't that hard.
But they also played the same exact instrumental when the dragon, like, it's the Dracarys theme. It's when the dragons breathe fire. And I'm like, you know, when this theme plays, the last time I heard this theme play that made me feel like hair stand on end, like this is awesome, was back at Astapor, where she burns the one guy alive when she's like, dragons have no master, and then poof, he's on fire. And that was awesome. But right now I'm just like, I mean, I like this theme, but it feels completely not used properly when it's just Dany pushing over urns. And like, congratulations, Dany, you set fire to an entire tent, and then you have the entire area in awe of your power because you killed like, that part I can understand. She killed the leadership. So they
Yeah.
immediately bow because like, all right, you're de facto leader.
You're the new leader now. That I don't have a problem with. It's that she was actually able to kill said leadership.
Yeah, it was a lot of them in there, and any one of them could have been like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm going to attack her. Unless,
Yeah.
I know Dothraki have an issue with water. Wasn't aware that they had an issue with fire.
No, that is true. I will say the one thing that I do think was kind of cool that I didn't really pick up on watching it. I guess I always assumed Dany was fireproof. I didn't think this was supposed to be a big reveal, but I was reading something with D&D where they were saying how cool this moment was because this is a secret Dany's had since season 1, that she knows she's fireproof, and this is the first moment she's used that kind of as like her trump card. And I was like, okay. I was like, in a thought process like that, that makes it a kind of cool moment. And I'm like, but isn't this something we've accepted as true all along? Like if Dany all of a sudden was like, look at the grass is green everywhere, everyone's not going to be like, oh, that's true. The grass has been green this entire time. Like,
I mean, it's more of an awe moment for, I guess, the people around the burning building that like, oh my god, she just walked out unscathed and naked. But
first time we've seen her naked in a while too. Actually.
Well, that's because she has it in her contract that she's not going to do any more topless scenes, which made me think that
no,
that was
no. So okay, did you see her interview though? Because she completely discredited that because that's very much what people thought.
Oh, really?
But she came out and she was like, nope, like that was me, like I did that scene, like that was my, it sounds like the difference this time, and I don't know if this was her or what. But her part of that scene was filmed in a studio set, I think, and the rest of it was filmed outdoors, and then it was put together.
Okay.
So she's like, unlike the last time, I didn't have to be naked out in a giant mountain. But she said she was I think she said she was proud of doing that scene. So I'm guessing that actually wasn't in her contract after all. But yeah, there was a lot of thought because this is the first time we've seen it in a while.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what a lot of people thought. And I think it was Natalie. Was it Natalie that said that a couple people on the show had made a couple of the other big female leads had made a big deal about it, and everyone thought they were talking about Emily. But I don't remember exactly what happened there. But
I always thought that was because when I first saw the scene, I was just like, I thought she had a contract that said that she wasn't doing this anymore, and I was like, maybe they like used the previous scene and just superimposed it or some shit.
Yeah, no, she said that was
all right,
her.
cool.
And yeah, no, but I don't know. Like I said, I thought that this moment, like in the list. Okay, if we take a look at the grand chronology, the grand order of Dany's timeline, this moment isn't really a blip on that, and it's very similar to all of the other story beats she's hit already. Like this is nothing new for Dany. She's still, I did read a Reddit thread that was talking about this, about one of the reasons Dany is boring is because she doesn't earn any of her victories. She uses dragons or she gets lucky. And this one, I think, can kind of play into that same idea.
It's luck.
Yeah, like, okay, she knocked over some fucking fire, but like, yeah, like, oh, I mean...
Well, it was very sloppy
like,
because it wasn't like she planned this like an episode or two ago. It was she saw Dario and Jorah and was like, wait, I have an idea. And I was like, when did you get this idea? Because
yeah,
just like it was like a moment from like a kid's show where it's just like, do you see the box? I see the box. Can you point out where the box is? It's in the bush. I'm like, oh, okay. I get that show, but...
And yeah, the Dany stuff just wasn't... I don't know. I mean, Dany hasn't excited me for a while. Her plot hasn't excited me for a while. And I don't know, this felt like Thrones hitting a story beat that it's hit better before. Like, this was like Thrones doing a best of tour of moments that the show's had already, but they're not as cool as they were originally. Like, this isn't as cool as Dany coming from the flames with her dragons. This isn't as cool as any of the stuff we've seen Dany do before.
She has another 40 days and 40 nights in the desert before she finds God.
Yeah, or something, apparently. So, I don't know. I did not think that Dany moment was anywhere near as big as everyone was making it out to be. So,
I would agree.
That could just be me, but I'm glad we're not alone on that, Tim.
I was very pleased with the response, because I like it when, like, I don't want it to be like divisively one way or another. I like it when it's split down the middle, because then you can have a conversation and people on the internet saying you're a fucking loser.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, what would the internet be if it wasn't insulting people?
Exactly. That's what it's for. Speaking of insulting people, let's talk about Tyrion. How do you think he's doing with his whole diplomacy thing?
It's funny. I mean, I think this is what Tyrion does well. And I think the point of this is to show us that Tyrion would be a good king. And I mean, I've said this before, that I do believe that Tyrion would be a good king, and that Tyrion is probably the best person to sit on the Iron Throne. So I do believe that. The question is I don't know. Like, I think he's doing the best that he can, given an incredibly shitty situation. Which is what Marine is.
Yeah. I think the show is trying to steer it into the direction of that Grey Worm and whatever her name is that I forget.
Missandei. See,
Missandei.
Between the two of us, we've got the show covered.
Absolutely. It feels like the show's steering towards, like, they are the ones who are right and Tyrion is being set up to fail. And I'm like, but realistically, 7 years to end slavery in the respective free towns and, giving up support to the Sons of the Harpy seems like a really good deal.
Yeah, and I don't know. I just hope that, like... I mean, if we back up and if we look at the large picture here, I think that... And actually, it's good that we mentioned Tolkien at the top, because Martin has said he's very much a reactionist to Tolkien. And Tolkien's whole thing was, well, Aragorn was a good king because he was chosen to be, he was a good king because he was fair and just, and that's all it takes to be a good king. But, Lord Tolkien didn't really delve into, what Martin's big thesis, the whole idea of Game of Thrones can be summed up in one sentence, which is, what was Aragorn's tax plan? And so it's really analyzing and looking into what it takes to be a good ruler. And I think that the trick that the texts do, and the show does this too, not just the books, but I think that the trick that the show does is that it takes characters like Dany, who you initially think, Dany in a lot of other stories would be the hero. Dany would be Aragorn. And then you slowly realize throughout the course of the show that Dany would be a horrible ruler. And then, I think that's what we're supposed to learn from Dany. And then, the book does the opposite with people like Jaime and Cersei, who you hate, that you slowly start to realize, yeah, they're evil, but they also, you start to understand why they make the decisions they're making. And I'm hoping that the show is not doing a disservice to Tyrion with this, because Tyrion is smart. If there's one thing it's Tyrion's smart, and he knows how to get stuff done, and he knows politics.
He also knows people.
Yeah, he does, and this is Tyrion in his element. So I wanna see fucking Tyrion succeed. I really do.
I want to see it succeed if only because it needs, like, I don't want it to turn into like, oh, they tricked you, and you're going, because I feel as if that's what we're going to get from King's Landing. I think that's what King's Landing is leading into.
Well, and
Because
I mean that's very similar. I mean that's essentially the plot we had last year in Marine.
yeah,
Was we tricked you and the Sons of the Harpy and someone secretly set up that whole thing, and then now they completely dropped that plot entirely for whatever fucking reason they do what they do, I guess.
yeah, they'll pick it up in about like 2 or 3 more episodes, and then they'll be like, see, we had this plan the entire time.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, I mean the Tyrion stuff was better than last week.
Because he's doing something as opposed to faffing about.
Yeah, because he's doing something instead of just joking off. But yeah, it is interesting. And I have a feeling, and I'm not 100% positive on this, but I have a pretty sneaky suspicion that this isn't Tyrion's arc from the books. I think they're making stuff up on their own as they go along here. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm giving Martin too much credit and not giving them enough credit. That is possible.
I also think that it's like, if it isn't, they're leading into what his arc is supposed to be.
But yeah, that's possible.
Because they need their characters in set pieces and need to be prepared, but they have to like get to some action somewhere. Like I feel as if that's what this episode and last episode were, is just like, we need to get everyone in place, just like every season of Game of Thrones. Like, we need to get everyone in place for the next big dramatic scene.
Yeah, the problem is I think I've seen this may have leaked from the set, so this might be me stating an accidental fact. But I think we know that, I shouldn't say no, it's long speculated that the big battle this year is going to be the Battle of Winterfell between Ramsay and Jon, which means we won't see that till episode 9, which, means they have to stall both of those plots, like, immediately.
Which means that we're going to probably have, like, Jon at the wall, like, wildlings, come with me, and, like, I don't know if we should, and, like, and then Jon gives a rousing speech, like, all right, we'll start marching, and then they start marching, and then the Boltons will send, like, 20 good men, like, oh, we had some issues, and Jon's like, don't fear, I have this plan, and then they keep on going, and like, Sansa's gone to the bathroom, like, let's wait for her. That's a whole episode,
Yeah, and actually, I want to talk about that stuff now. Let's get into that. What are your thoughts on the Jon and Sansa scenes this episode?
I'm very happy that they're together. I feel as if Sansa is very much the, like, Sansa all of a sudden becomes like, we have to protect our family. She becomes super family oriented because, she's like lost everybody. Like, there's only 2 of us that we know of right now. Don't know where anyone else is. They're probably dead. Let's be as a family and go. But we need to take Winterfell back. Like, Sansa, I don't know how you're going to expect that to happen. But I value your family centric nature. And then all of a sudden it's like, they have Rick on. Okay, we have our impetus now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I kind of struggled with these scenes. I mean, obviously, Sophie Turner's my boo, and so that clouds any discussion I make of Sansa and her character. But I don't know. They felt tonally like, I'm gonna call it Game of Thrones fan fiction. Like, having these 2 characters be back together and be happy, and, like, the one scene with them just, like, hanging out, like, felt like Game of Thrones, the sitcom. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, the way that I would describe it as is not sitcom and not fan fiction. I would describe it as fan service. Because we haven't had a happy Stark moment for such a long time. And we were, like, honestly, this is Game of Thrones. If Sansa and Jon were in a room drinking ale and trading stories back and forth, I would have expected, like, a Frey or a Bolton or, like, a random bird kill Jon or Sansa right there. Because it's Game of Thrones. You don't expect breathing room happy moments. That was the one, like, happy Stark moment that we've had in a very long time.
Yeah, but is there room for that in the Thrones narrative, though?
I think there is, because considering where they both just came from, I think that's the natural response that they can have. They're not going to be morose about it. They have to think about what's next. Sansa just had a really shitty marriage with Ramsay and had a really rough last season. Jon died. Like,
Yeah.
at that point, it's just like, can you imagine that conversation? They didn't have that conversation. Like, we got like to the very end of that conversation, but can you imagine like Sansa's like, this is what happened to me, and Jon gets like, I died. Like, our lives have really sucked.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, something still felt off about those scenes for me, but I do think you're probably right. It's probably just because it's been so long since we've had any happy scene in Game of Thrones, let alone a happy Stark scene. But, and yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if that's how things are going to play out in the books. I'm not sure if I mean, I don't want to become one of those people that judges Thrones too soon. I mean, we don't know where these plots are going. Obviously, I think we have seen a huge shift in Sansa's character where she's calling the shots more than Jon is now.
Yeah.
She's really the one telling Jon what to do, which is interesting to me.
I think that's largely because Sansa is still family centric, and she still has this mindset of like, we have to do this for the family. Like her character from season 1 to season whatever season this is, 6, 5,
Six.
has shifted in the like how she views family. Like in the very beginning, she was a whiny brat that viewed family as a means to become like queen, and now she views family as like, this is all we have, is our family and our name. She basically became what Tywin was about. It was like, all we have is family.
Interesting.
That's all we have. And I think the like the dark Raven-esque figure that we had in the eerie scenes from last season is what is going to come forth this season again, where she wants to end all enemies to the Stark name, and will do that if that is her dying breath, because that's all she has left in her life. And Jon, who has died, basically wants to go off and be like, well, I died, I did my duty, and I died for it, so I'm just gonna like go relax, up until the point is just like, shit, I'm still a dutiful like guy, like I still like, that's family, I have to go do this. Which I like, because Jon isn't in it to be the leader. He's reluctant to do that role again because he's failed at it. Which is good, because he did fail at it. He died doing it. But now he gets the second chance at it, and he's learned from... I like the fact that he has like some sense that there are things that he probably could have done better to avoid being stabbed multiple times.
What doesn't kill you, Tim, only makes you stronger.
It's true.
But yeah, it was. There were a couple other interesting tidbits in the Night's Watch stuff. Melisandre is now Team Jon with the Prince Who Promised prophecy. The funny thing is I'm fairly certain the show has still not actually explained what this prophecy is. But this is the second time this season it's mentioned it. I also find it interesting that it hasn't mentioned the prophecy by the name that people normally refer to it as, with Azor Ahai.
That'll probably come up much later.
Yeah, well, and I'm curious because I feel like I remember having a discussion with someone last season about how the show, it had finally acknowledged R+L=J, but it had completely not mentioned anything at all with Azor Ahai. And now it's mentioning it, but it's not mentioning it by name, which is interesting. The other thing we did get is we got confirmation from Brienne that she did kill Stannis, that Stannis is gone. Stannis is 100% donezo. So I don't know. Does that help you sleep better at night, Tim? If Brienne tells you that he's dead?
Yeah. Stannis the Menace is gone.
Poor Stannis.
Yeah. That I believe Brienne probably kept... Yeah, she most likely kept her oath to Renly.
Here's the question, though. If Stannis dies in the books, which I'm not entirely positive he will Brienne be the one to kill Stannis in the books, or do you think that's a liberty the show is taking?
Oh god, I'm gonna go with show liberty because it helps Brienne.
I think so too. On that one, yeah.
But Brienne also, makes it perfectly clear to Davos and Melisandre that, hey, you're the witch. I know what you did. I don't forgive and I don't forget. I'm like, all right, Brienne, just go eat. Have Tormund stare at you a little bit more. Okay, so the highlight of this episode for me in terms of humor was the way Tormund stared at Brienne upon entry into Castle Black and then during dinner at Castle Black.
Yo, do you think they're gonna have a love affair go on?
I hope so, because they'd have the tallest, most badass babies. But I like
with
to
big
think,
dicks, with big dicks. Don't forget about that.
Yeah, yes, but I absolutely think that in those scenes with Tormund's staring at Brienne is like, come on, man, you fucked a bear. You can talk to a girl. You can talk to a lady, man. You can do this. Just get the courage. But he just ends up just staring blankly at her.
That's funny. Yeah. Yeah, we did get her. Yeah. There's a lot of people at the wall now. A lot of the locations and things are starting to thin out or come together, and people are
coalescing into locations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
Except for Arya, she's off on her own.
Yeah, we didn't have any Arya this week, did we?
No, she's still Matt Murdocking.
Yeah, no Arya this week.
But
okay, so who next? Who do you want to hit next?
I still want to hit Ramsay, but that's because I want to physically beat him.
Ah, yes, Ramsay.
So do you think they're just going to spend like all the way up to episode 9 just making him more sinister? Because that's how it feels.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't give a shit he killed Tonks. Like, who the fuck, like...
Hey, Tonks was the best Hufflepuff there ever was.
Okay, but, I mean...
Asha?
She hasn't been in the show forever. I don't care. Like, I'm gonna be completely honest. I don't care if he kills Rickon. I don't give a shit about Rickon. Like, does anyone care about Rickon? Like,
I don't think Rickon's gonna die. Honestly, that's the thing that's gonna bug me if he doesn't die. Because Rickon serves a role right now as the impetus for Jon and Sansa and their entire happy crew of Davos, Brienne, and Melisandre.
But that's all he does. He's a plot point.
Oh yeah, he's a plot point. But here's the thing. That's why he's not going to die. He's a plot point. They need to get to him. And then he can die, like, in front of Jon, inciting him to fight hard.
Yeah. Okay. I see what you mean. Yep. Okay. Yeah, I think I could definitely see that happening. But again, I don't care. I'm not invested in him. I don't care if he lives or dies. And yeah, I was actually, again, I was just having a conversation with one of my other friends about this. I have never understood the show's fascination with Ramsay. I don't want to say Ramsay is a tertiary character in the books, but the show just spends so much time with him. And I mean, it got under a lot of flack for the Flaying season with Theon's transformation. And I can understand that. I mean, it's tough because I think on the one hand, the show, you know, kind of did the right thing because you can't just have Theon show up completely different and have it make sense at all. But they also spent a long time torturing him. And I don't know, yeah, they've played this really long game with Ramsay. I think, and my gut tells me that the show, or maybe I read this. I don't.
Well,
remember.
besides that, he also like raped Sansa. Like that was a big to do.
Yep, that was a big to do too. And I mean, but they've really, it's almost like the show's realized it needs a central villain, and with Joffrey gone, they try to put Ramsay in Joffrey's place. And I don't know. I don't hate Ramsay as much as Joffrey. I mean,
I do actually hate Ramsay more than Joffrey.
Interesting. I mean, I don't know. Ramsay is just like, they're a different type of evil. Like, Ramsay is like Voldemort evil, which, like, yeah, you obviously hate him. He's a bad fuck, but that's his deal. Like, Joffrey, I feel like, is almost more of like a, how do I want to word it? It's almost like a, who's the lady in Harry Potter? Wow,
Umbridge.
Yeah. He's an Umbridge. He's an unfair evil where he's not predictable. And I don't think Joffrey was fully evil. I mean, he was a product of his childhood, so he may actually have been fully evil. But he was an unfair evil. I think he was very different than Ramsay. And
I think the difference between the two of them is largely position of power as well as their age. With Joffrey, you had a very young, childlike, cruel child who didn't fully grasp like what power meant and what he was doing to other people and was just petulant all the time. And because of that, he had wild mood swings that would just cause him to just kill people indiscriminately. And the fact that he was the king of Westeros did not help anything because he had absolute power. With Ramsay, it's a lot more personal of an evil, where he's not affecting the whole of Westeros, but he's affecting our like most cherished family, the Starks, and that he like actively, destroys personal characters. Joffrey destroys lives and the livelihood of an entire country, an entire city of people. Ramsay destroys the lives of individual families and friends and just individuals in general, because that's how he operates. He can't rule the North. He can't hold the same kind of fear across an entire area of land, but he can instill that fear in individual people, and that's where he reigns supreme.
Interesting. That's a very good reading of those two characters, Tim. Yeah, Ramsay is kind of like the local level Joffrey.
Yeah, he's your Governor Joffrey.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting. Yeah, I like that. I like that reading. And yeah, I mean, I think the show has invested a lot into making Ramsay the big bad, the face of evil on the show.
It does give us a focal point for when the future battles go ahead, because we already hate him. He destroyed Theon utterly.
Yeah, but did anyone care about Theon? Let's be honest.
They really didn't. But it was just grotesque to see someone tortured on screen, and then he raped Sansa. Just this killing Asha doesn't really add to the evil. It's just like another thing on his little bucket list before he kicks the bucket. Like, he is twisted. He is an evil fuck. But the things that he did prior to this season were far worse than what he's doing right now.
I mean, yeah, that's also true.
Oh, I also did forget that he did feed his baby brother to the wolves. So yeah,
maybe not actually.
Yeah, no, never mind. He's done one colossal evil thing for the last 3 seasons, including this season. So, he has just been an awful person all the way through. And killing Asha is just like, okay, he stabbed somebody, but at least he didn't feed her to the wolves or do any other number of unspeakable things.
Or at least he didn't eat her like she said.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think the show's heading towards a Battle of the Bastards. I think it's heading for Jon versus Ramsay.
Snow v. Snow, Blizzard 2016.
And yeah, I don't see any way for that to end besides Ramsay dying. I really don't. And it would be sad if it was that predictable.
Unless Ramsay was the prince who was promised.
Oh God, Melisandre would be up shit creek on that one then.
Yeah, she'd be like, you know what, I quit. Bye.
But okay. So what other? Are there any other parts well,
there's King's Landing, where I think they're gonna be we finally got to see a little bit of Marjorie, and we got a little bit of action of where King's Landing is going to be going, and I think they're going to be wandering right into a big old booby trap. Yeah,
I do want to talk about King's Landing, Tim. I want to do that last.
Okay.
Because I think that's the biggest one we've got left. Was there anything else? I mean, we had a little bit with Pike, a very little bit with Pike. A scene with Theon and his sister. Again, mostly just setting up the King's Moot for next episode.
Where Theon is like, I just want you to be the king of the Iron Islands.
Hey, they're doing one of the Queen's plot, the 2 famous Queen plots, right?
Yeah, right. I'm excited for that, considering the fact that the other one is we don't know what's going on Dorne anymore.
Yeah, Dorne's done. Dorne's so done. But okay, so we had a little bit with Pike.
Done as a Dorne nail.
Done as a Dorne nail. Ha.
Yeah, somebody's gonna kill me for that one.
Is there any other group we're forgetting? I think we hit everyone.
I think we hit everyone. Dario knows about Jorah's grayscale.
Yes, yep.
That's pretty much for just a reiteration of what grayscale is, and when Dario said, "Do you know what happens to you?" and Jorah's like, "I know what happens to me." Just so you know, because we had an episode last season of this podcast where we discussed it further. It's the petrification of your skin first, and then your organs. So you become a living statue, and then you die.
You become a grumpy statue first, but yeah.
Oh yeah, where you're just grumpy about I'm an old man and I can't get with the queen.
I mean, they're essentially zombies, kind of. Kind of.
Kind of. It's a fictitious version of Hansen's disease.
Yep. Yep. But okay, yeah. So I think let's wrap up with King's Landing. Yeah, yeah, that is true. We did see Marjorie. I mentioned that how we haven't seen her in a while.
Yep.
And Loras, who is very much not dead, which I think a lot.
I was wrong about that too.
Yeah, I think, and you weren't the only. I think a lot of people thought Loras was dead. Yeah. So what do you think of King's Landing? What do you?
Oh God. All right. Well, High Sparrow is definitely playing a game. We always knew that. That's no different. He's like still acting as the holy father of these sheep, which are the most violent sheep ever. And we didn't really like the only thing that we confirmed with the Marjorie is like she's okay, Loras is okay, and that they're going to be act as the impetus for the future King's Landing plot, where it's obviously a trap. There's no way that Tommen's just like the High Sparrow told me that Marjorie's going to confess her sins, and Cersei's like, oh my God, we have to tell the small council. Tells the small council. The small council's like, we can't have that happen. That it smells like such a trap. Because they're going to attack the High Sparrow and try to retake the keep, but either at the same time, these little this little army is going to the Faith Militant's going to like invade the keep at the same time and take the king hostage and take over, or they're going to use that as an excuse for religious martial law because they're all sinners. Because why would you attack anybody in the Septum? Like it. This entire last season into this season has just been building up to the fact we have religious fanatics. If you disobey any of these random tenets, we're gonna put you in chains.
Yeah, you're fucked.
At some point they have to realize that if they attack the High Sparrow, they are absolutely going to be put in the same prison. They're absolutely going to get killed. In fact, I think that's what it's going to be. Why we're going to have Tarly scenes, because they're going to be important because the Reach's army is going to be the one who's going to be invading into King's Landing, and they're one of the vassal houses.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to see that through both. I think we're going to see that Sam's going to stop there quick. And then I think we'll see them go and invade King's Landing. Yeah, I think you are right about that. But then what happens? Do we see a continued, do we see a continue of this very flaky allegiance between the Lannisters and the Tyrells? Who, bound by marriage, but they fucking hate each other.
I think they will have that alliance so long as the High Sparrow's men are within the walls of the city, and I think that is something that they're going to try to resolve this season, or at least have some momentum in. One side's going to win, and I can't decide which side.
Yeah, that's what I'm not sure about either. I do agree. Something big needs to happen in King's Landing. Something big hasn't happened in King's Landing for a while. And I don't know. I mean, even King's Landing, it's the same thing. Are they really just going to repeat and have Marjorie do a walk of shame and then have another fucking trial by combat?
Well, I don't think she's doing the walk of shame at all.
Yeah, you think it's just a setup? Okay.
I absolutely think it's a setup because I think that High Sparrow knows the royal family based off of his interactions with them because they've all visited him. So he absolutely knows all right, Cersei's the motherly figure and also a lioness. Tommen is very much in love with Marjorie, and that absolutely shows. If I tell Tommen, and Tommen's a mama's boy, if I tell Tommen Marjorie's going to take the walk of shame to be with him and confess all her sins, Tommen's obviously going to tell Mama Lion, and Mama Lion's going to react as Mama Lion does, just by reacting and making stupid decisions.
I hope so. I hope that's the game the Sparrow's playing, because I still think the Sparrow is a very interesting character, but that they haven't done anything interesting with him yet. And they're trying so hard to, still convince you that he's a good guy, even though he's clearly up to something. And yeah, we're spending so much time with him, and I feel like every time it's like his long talk with Marjorie. What the hell came out of that scene?
Other than the fact that we found out that he has a backstory that may or may not be false.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. So like where they have to do something with him, and they have to do something with King's Landing. I agree with that. So overall, Tim, what are your overall thoughts on this episode?
Better than last episode. Still not the greatest.
I'm actually switched. I think I like this one least this season.
I think the reason why, like, it's a rather selfish reason. I think the reason why I like this episode more is because I can draw a cartoon about Tormund.
Okay, I mean, so there was something in the episode for you.
Oh yeah, it was just like a few humorous moments.
I mean that's fair. But yeah, I don't know. Actually, one of my friends mentioned this, how the show's been a lot more comedic lately, and I think this episode did have a lot of shifts in tone that I'm not sure if it navigated super well.
I'm just hoping that we have a little brief aside in the next episode where Tormund asks Brienne out on a date on top of the wall.
Aw, that would be so cute.
It's like romantic. He has like a little spread out made out of some sort of yak hide, and it's like 2 flasks of ale and probably like a roasted steer, and he's just like, this is the best I could come up with.
That would be good. That's a livable. See, that's a happy ending.
Yeah, right there. And audience, if you want to draw that or write fan fiction for me, that idea's up for grabs.
Tim would be okay with that. So
I'm perfectly fine with it.
Cool. So we saw. We forgot Littlefinger.
Oh shit.
Okay, we'll do. Fuck, I knew we were forgetting. Okay, we'll do Littlefinger and then we'll wrap up. I mean, Littlefinger was a short scene, but it's the first time we've seen him for a while. But he's rallied the Eyrie to now go to Winterfell, where he's, of course, hoping to control this with Sansa. And we actually saw a clip next week of him and Sansa talking, of Sansa asking Littlefinger if he knew about Ramsay. So she ain't taking shit anymore.
Oh, yeah, and my question to you was actually that same question. Do you think he knew?
I believe we talked about this last year on the podcast.
Oh, yeah, we did.
And that's what I said, is I had a hard time believing that he didn't know. It didn't make sense in his character that he would not have heard rumors of the bastard of Bowen. So I don't know if he knew and was ignoring it. I don't know. Littlefinger's a tricky one. And they're making him slightly less mischievous in the show. So I'm not really sure. I think I just want to say it would surprise me if he didn't know. I
think it's definitely a move that he could do.
He may have known and doubted it, or he may have heard rumors and not actually known how bad it was, which might actually be how he tries to justify it to Sansa. That's very, very entirely possible. So we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, so I'm guessing him and the army actually make it up to Actually, that's weird because they showed him and Sansa. Does he go to the wall before Winterfell?
He might, because where would Sansa have gone? To the Lord Commander.
Yeah. So he.
That's why I think he knew, because was the greatest way to rally the Eyrie to his side, than to go up, take Winterfell, reinstate the Starks, and have an Eyrie Stark alliance.
Yeah, no, that's true. But what else? What other we saw? We did see a preview for Brienne for next week. And this is the episode that I think we're gonna get R plus L equals J. But the preview actually didn't show any of the Tower of the Joy. It showed the Night King, whom we haven't seen for a while. So I'm guessing that's actually Bran warging into the future. Would be my guess.
That green side is really strong.
Yeah. So we'll see. And yeah. Next week's episode 5 already. Halfway through the season, which is crazy if you think about it.
Yeah, it feels just like yesterday we were celebrating the return of Jon Snow.
Yeah, it really does. So next week, episode 5, The Door, and then we'll be able to take a look and see. I do think we've hit. Episodes 1 and 2 were really good, really strong out of the gate, and 3 and 4 I think have suffered a little bit from the normal mid-season Thrones slump. So we'll see what they pull out for 5. I hope they pull out something good. So, anything else? Any other thoughts, Tim?
Robin's a little jerk who's easily controllable.
Oh
Just
yeah,
remember that.
yeah, he always is. So just remember that. Don't pamper your kids or they'll turn into Rob and Aaron.
Exactly, and they'll throw you through the moon door.
Yeah, through the moon door. So on that note, we are going to exit through the moon door for this week. Thank you everyone for listening. We'll be back next week. Same Game of Thrones time, same Game of Thrones channel. 8-Bit Awesome, Voices of Valyria podcast. This has been Willie Clark.
And Tim.
See you later, guys. Peace.
Good night.